Ezekiel chapter 1. I know it sounds exciting, thrilling to say, there's spaceships being mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 1.
Now, whether they've always been here, like in the Vedic texts, or I mean, even in the Bible, in Ezekiel's description of the wheel within a wheel, and have you read that
No.
description? Pull up Ezekiel's description of what he saw. This is one of the favorite descriptions from the Bible, from the Old Testament, about UFOs that people love to bring up, because Ezekiel has this thing that he describes, and it's the most bizarre depiction. I saw an immense dust storm come from the north, an immense cloud with lightning flashing from it, a huge ball of fire glowing like bronze. Within the fire were what looked like four creatures vibrant with life. Each had the form of a human being, but each also had four faces and four wings. Their legs were as sturdy and straight as columns, but their feet were hooved like those of a calf and sparkled with the fire like burnished bronze. On all four sides under their wings they had human hands. All four had faces and the wings touching one another. They turned neither one way nor the other. They went straight forward. Their faces looked like this. In front of a human face, on the right side, the face of a lion. On the left, the face of an ox. And in the back, the face of an eagle. So much for the faces. The wings were spread out with the tips of one pair touching the creature on either side. The other pair of wings covered its body. Each creature went straight ahead. Wherever the spirit went, they went. They didn't turn as they want. The four creatures looked like blazing fire or fiery torches. Tongues of fire shot back and forth between the creatures, and out of the fire, bolts of lightning. The creatures flashed back and forth like strikes of lightning. As I watched the four creatures, I saw something that looked like a wheel on the ground beside each of the four-faced creatures. This is what the wheels looked like. They were identical wheels, sparkling like diamonds in the sun. They looked like they were wheels within wheels, like a gyroscope. They went in any of the four directions they faced, but straight, not veering off. The rims were immense, circled with eyes. When the living creatures went, the wheels went. When the living creatures lifted off, the wheels lifted off. Wherever the spirit went, they went, the wheels sticking right with them. For the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. When the creatures went, the wheels went. When the creatures stopped, the wheels stopped. When the creatures lifted off, the wheels lifted off, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Over the heads of the living creatures was something like a dome, shimmering like the light, like a sky full of cut glass, vaulted over their heads. Under the dome, one set of wings was extended towards the other, with another set of wings covering their bodies. When they moved, I heard their wings. It was like the roar of a great waterfall, like the voice of the strong God, like the noise of a battlefield. When they stopped, they folded their wings. And then, as they stood with folded wings, there was a voice above the dome over their heads. Above the dome, there was something that looked like a throne, sky blue like a sapphire, with a human-like figure towering above the throne. From what I could see, from the waist up, he looked like burnished bronze, and from the waist down, like a blazing fire. Brightness everywhere. The way a rainbow springs out of a sky on a rainy day, that's what it was like. It turned out to be the glory of God.
You see, it's through precepts you get understanding. It's if there's a mystery, it has to be revealed using the scriptures. Mysteries are not revealed just because something feels good or it sounds exciting. It doesn't work that way. The Most High does not care about entertaining you. He said it's to search out a matter. It's the honor of kings. So this being said, I want to address the interpreted points of Ezekiel chapter 1. So I'm going to start with verse 4. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north. That north I'm going to come to that later on, and this is very important. A great cloud and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. So this usually gets coupled with this, verse 15. Now, as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one Ophan or wheel upon the earth by the living creatures with his four faces. I'm also going to touch on that as well. It says the appearance of the Ophanim and their work was like unto the color of a beryl, as they four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work were as it were an Ophan in the middle of an Ophan, or wheel within a wheel. You see, this is just I'm just using this to show that what people are doing is they're conflating this fire, which is this, color of amber. What they're doing is they're conflating this with the Ophan in the middle of an Ophan, or a wheel within a wheel. And then they're the ones creating this spaceship doctrine. Notice, you don't see spaceship anywhere here. What they're doing is they're interpreting this from this to be spaceship. The Bible is of no private interpretation, but people will love a private interpretation because it's exciting. It's exciting to say spaceships. Again, it's just wrong.
By the prophet Ezekiel. He describes the wheels, the wings, the legs, even the noise which the vehicle makes when it comes down. He even describes the sand who blows up. That means it was a practical vehicle. But God, the real omnipotent God, the spirit of the universe, does not need these things who makes noise, sand is blown up, etc. Why did these extraterrestrials arrive here?
Again, as we've already read, there's the fire, and then there's the color of amber. You have to use precepts to know what this is talking about. We also see there's this whirlwind that came out of the north. That's going to touch on this. As we start to define it, we're going to go to the same book, but chapter 8, starting at verse 2. Then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire. That's what we're talking about, right? From the appearance of his loins even downward, fire, and from his loins even upward, as the appearance of brightness, as the color of amber, just like we saw in chapter 1, verse 3. And he put forth the form of a hand and took me by a lock of my head. And then also that Israelites are not Europeans. And the Rawak lifted me up between the earth and the heavens and brought me in the vision of Elohim to Jerusalem, to where? The door of the inner gate that looks toward the north. That's why you see north in chapter 1, as it connects to this fire, the color of amber. Okay, rock with me. It says, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provokes to jealousy? Okay, see this north and this fire upward and downward, the color of amber. You won't really fully get it or understand it because it connects to the law. Imagine that. See, Christians are definitely not going anywhere near the law to understand anything about the Bible. Because I know, like, religious people hate dealing with the Torah. But I'm not a religious person, so we're going to go to the Torah. We're going to go to Deuteronomy 6 and verse 15. For Yahweh Elohika is a jealous, keyword jealous, El, among you, lest the anger of Yahweh Elohika be kindled just like a damn fire against you, and destroy you from off the face of the earth. So this is a foundational definition connected to jealousy and fire. Because again, going back to chapter 8 in Ezekiel, we see that There's a fire upward and a fire downward. And it's saying loins like it's a body of a man. But as we know, this is the Most High because we just saw it in Deuteronomy. You see, this is talking about the Most High being pissed off. We also see in the Ten Commandments that, the Most High does get jealous when you don't keep his commandments. That's the foundation to this. That is the foundation to this. That's why he's in Jerusalem, the door of the inner gate that looks towards the north. All of these things are all in this connected definition using precepts. When you don't use precepts, you'll think this is the exhaust of some rocket ship because y'all are lazy and because you place excitement above truth. So when you see this color of amber, this fire, the appearance of a man, it's talking about the Most High being pissed off because of jealousy, because Israel has been in idolatry. We also see this later on in the same chapter. But again, just read the chapter. I know y'all are lazy. It's too much work to read, but you see the idolatry being mapped out. It's outlined. This person's doing this. This person's worshiping that. This person's burning incense to woo 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 woo. It's all in the chapter. This gets the Most High jealous. It pisses him off to where he then has to correct, which is in the following chapter. Okay, but we're going to come back home. So also in chapter 1, like I said, we're going to deal with this Ophan in the middle of an Ophan, which is, for you who all subscribe to the KJV, wheel within a wheel. It's also connected to this color of a beryl. This beryl is the color of amber. I get sick and tired also of Israelite camps trying to make this about skin color. We just saw that it's the Most High being pissed off. Nothing to do with skin. It has to do with color, but it's about fire. But it's not literal fire or anything. Like it's like essentially spiritual anger. That's probably the best way I could put it. But anyways, we need to find out what this means, this wheel within a wheel, this Ophan in the middle of an Ophan. So we're going to use a precept as required. We're going to go to 1 Kings chapter 7 and verse 30. It says, not me, in every base. And we're going to touch on these bases too because it connects to the 4 living creatures later. Every base had 4 brazen wheels and plates of brass, and the 4 corners thereof had undersetters. Under the laver were undersetters molten at the sides of every addition. Verse 32 then says, and under the borders were 4 wheels, and the axle trees of the wheels were joined to the base. See, we're talking about wheels, just like we see in Ezekiel. And the height of a wheel was 1.5 cubits, and the work of the wheels was like the work of a chariot wheel. I'm going to show this. Actually coming straight from the pages. It says, their axle trees and their naves and their felloes and their spokes were all molten. You see, often in the book, when you see molten and brass and fire, this is a thing that Moses wrote about when he, created a fiery serpent. That fiery serpent was a brass serpent. See how brass and fire are always connect? See, it has nothing to do with skin color, because what's the point of that? This is a spiritual understanding. So if a person having brass skin, okay, congratulations. It does nothing. This is talking about fire. Also, you see fire in the furnace. You see that in the book of Daniel. To be tried in the fire. It's not literal people in a literal furnace literally being burned. It's talking about, and it says in Isaiah, the furnace of affliction. Again, I know this is not the exciting thing, but it's the true thing. You got to pick which side you want. So Ezekiel's not talking about a damn spaceship, I guess, spaceship flying saucers spinning, gyrating around, or spaceship engines having fire. It's very, very idiotic when you use precepts. Now, this wheel we see in First Kings is a literal wheel connected to literal bases. But there's something on those bases, and this is going to take us to the third part of this, which is the four living creatures. So we're going to go back to Ezekiel chapter 1. We're going to start at verse 6. It says, everyone had four faces, these living creatures, and everyone had four wings, and their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. Again, Isaiah being tried in the fire, the furnace, the furnace of affliction. Just like in Egypt, there was only one nation of people that was set free from Egypt. They were in the furnace of affliction. They were in captivity. Again, having straight feet as if their soul was like a calf's foot. This is not going to the left. It's not going to the right. It's having straight feet, walking in the commandments. This is all scripture. This is not some alien, I guess people would say. The calf's foot, just like you would see Christ. Christ was called the Lamb. Verse 10. As for the likeness of their faces, they four had the face of a man, and the face of a lion on the right side, and they four had the face of an ox on the left side, and they four also had the face of an eagle. I know people like to Google a bunch of crazy artwork, high definition artwork, that does nothing. It also with the book of Daniel, and it's crazy because the book of Daniel also mentions four beasts. People confuse those beasts with these living creatures as if they are tied in together. They have absolutely nothing to do with each other. They have no origin connected to each other. Absolutely nothing. Those beasts and Daniel are Satan's nations. These living creatures here are connected to the Most High. As we continue, it will be revealed. So, where do we see these four living creatures? In a precept. We're going to go back to First Kings, the same chapter, chapter 7, where we saw in verse 30 the wheels, the axles and everything. Above it is our connecting point. So verse 29, and on the borders that were between the ledges were lions, oxen, and cherubim. The cherubim is man and eagle combined. It's a man with eagle's wings. And upon the ledges there was a base. See, this base is the base we see in the following verse 30, connected to the wheels. You see what I'm saying? And beneath the lions and oxen were certain additions made of thin work. See, this is talking about things that were in a temple. This is Solomon's temple. Solomon's temple was not a damn spaceship. We see all of the elements right here. But the thing you don't see is a spaceship. Yet again, I know it's exciting to shout out, oh, Ezekiel's talking about a spaceship. You guys are lying. Even if you say, oh, I think he's talking about a spaceship. Yeah, but nobody's required to care about what anybody thinks. What did the connecting prophets say? Nobody's considering what they say, which is the word of God. You're caring about what celebrities say. This issue with the wheel actually goes deeper. It goes much, much deeper. And also the four faces. All of this connects. So the fire, the wheel within the wheel, and the four living creatures actually all connect to the nation of Israel. They all connect to this one nation. Here's how. So And I'm going to use an actual wheel so you can see why Ezekiel is using a wheel as a parable. He's using it as a parable. So with this wheel, when you go to Numbers chapter 2, you see the foundation of the camp. Again, Numbers chapter 2 is in the law. This is why Christians know nothing of this, because it's like they're allergic to going to what Moses wrote about. So in chapter 2, verses 3 through 9, we see the east side of the camp. I'm not going to go there and read a chapter because that's too tedious. I have it on the screen. You can go there and look for yourself. It's dealing with Zebulun, Judah, and Issachar. Then you have the south side of the camp, verses 10 through 16, which is Gad, Reuben, and Simeon. Then you have the west side of the camp, verses 18 through 24, which is Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh. And then you have the north side of the camp, which is verses 25 through 29, which is Asher, Dan, and Naphtali. Now there's one verse missing here, and that's verse 17, in between the south side and the west side. What's there is actually what's in the middle of the camp, and that's the tribe of Levi. It's like the middle of where all your spokes meet, where all your tribes meet. This same design is used in the final chapter of Ezekiel. It's also used in the book of Revelation. It never deviates from its foundation in the book of Numbers. So there's also the four sides. You see the word standard there. And so when you look at the word standard, it's actually true where it's talking about a flag. There's four flags for each direction. Again, north, south, east, west. These four flags, you have a man, a lion, and an ox and an eagle, just like we saw in Solomon's temple. See, whether it's the tabernacle or the temple, you still have the same elements there. You have the cherubim as well. In the book of Revelation, it says, and it's full of eyes. Right, you're dealing with dozens of thousands of people. People, last time I checked, have eyes. These people were tried in the fire. They were in the furnace of affliction, just like the fiery serpent, just like the molten brass spokes or wheels, if you will. You have the inner wheel, the middle, the Levites. You have the outer wheel, the nation of Israel. But one thing you don't have is aliens and spaceships. Hopefully at this point, it's like, it's okay to feel stupid for believing something that was just outright stupid. It's okay. But you should feel even dumber when something's actually revealed to you from the book, but you still choose to believe that stupid doctrine because it's exciting, or the delivery of it was exciting. It was a bunch of yelling and screaming. You need an environment for learning, not an environment for entertainment. If you want to be entertained, join a church, join a camp, etc. But this is actually the truth here. This is what it is. That's all I have for now, as it is written, and I'm out.